This video was made possible by sponsors like you. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon.
Carrie drew two mommies. She told me they're married to each other.
Well, people have their own ideas about what is right and wrong.
Awful.
Hey Toonies, I'm WHYBOY, this is NERO.
Hey.
And you read the title of this video correctly, we're talking about religious movies today.
But we aren't talking about garbage where it's heavy-handed propaganda designed to shame you into compliance. We wanted to find movies that are actually engaging. Interesting retellings of religious parables from around the world that you can watch no matter what beliefs you have.
We won't say all these movies are perfect by any means, but we do promise that each movie tackles religion in a unique way that makes them stand out, warts and all. And truthfully, it's converted us to really enjoy watching the various belief systems from around the world turn into movies.
So sit right back and relax and we'll tell you about 10 religious cartoons that'll convert you. Though not really.
But it makes for a clickbaity title.
Thanks, YouTube! The Prince of Egypt. This film covers the birth of, upbringing, and triumphant freeing of the slaves under the spiritual leadership of Moses. This is a remarkable film from its animation, performances, music, and really our only criticism is tone. Not because the tone is inconsistent, but rather that the tone it carries, and this is a film made by DreamWorks specifically to go up against Disney, so by extension, DreamWorks is just making Disney-style movies just under their brand. We do have to ask, who the heck is the audience for this flick? It's remarkably dark for children, the core audience that DreamWorks is pandering towards. And you can't say that it's not the case because there were McDonald's tie-ins and collectible doll merchandising for this movie. And this movie kicks Disney square in the teeth when it comes to openly showing mature content despite the audience it's aimed at. Although it does do a rather elegant job telling the story without coming off heavy-handed or clunky as opposed to other films on this list.
Joseph, King of Dreams. A prequel to DreamWorks classic Prince of Egypt, King of Dreams follows the story of Joseph. From his birth, his brother's betrayal, and being sold into slavery and ending up in service to the Pharaoh of Egypt. For a 2000 direct-to-DVD movie, the writing and animation are solid. It even takes the time period's experimental approach to CGI, which looks awful by today's standards, and uses it to the benefit of giving the dream sequences that otherworldly feeling. And this grounded approach to the writing makes Joseph and his brothers much more identifiable, seeing their frustration, anguish, and jealousy, humanizes them as we follow this tale of envy and forgiveness. King of Dreams may not have the jaw-dropping quality of Prince of Egypt, kind of hard to with a direct-to-video budget, but it is still an incredibly solid approach to retelling a biblical tale without becoming absurd.
The Witness. This is such a different take on a religious movie, as The Witness retells the story of the crucifixion of Jesus backwards by taking the perspective of an atheist protagonist. The story follows Barabbas, the criminal rebel that was set free during the trial of Jesus. After witnessing the death of Jesus, Barabbas becomes fixated and questions whether Jesus was the Son of God, and more importantly to him, why Jesus only showed forgiveness towards him. From there, Barabbas meets various figures and hears stories of Jesus' miracles, while still questioning whether Jesus was the Son of God or merely just a charlatan. While most religious films tend to be straightforward with the idea that, no, Jesus really is the Son of God, deal with it, The Witness allows questions to be asked. This movie doesn't shame you for being skeptical. Actually, it poses valuable questions that could be brought up and answers them, and distinguishes true faith and belief. So apart from some terrible looking water effects, I mean, just look at that, it's pretty bad. The Witness is a very compelling watch.
The Easter Promise. This is not a great religious movie, just gonna put that out there. Even more honest, it's not even a good religious movie. But, is it entertaining? Yes. In the same horrendously humorous stylings of the beloved holiday classic, The Christmas Tree. The Easter Promise gets aspects simultaneously right as well as very wrong. The angle of a child during the time when Jesus is visiting an inevitable crucifixion is an interesting concept that they follow through masterfully on, while also undercutting themselves every step of the way. From animation errors, terrible sound mixing, and just plain garbage acting.
Look what they've done. He hasn't done anything.
It becomes just a comedy of errors, with the only saving grace being, fittingly enough, Jesus himself. His scenes are great, these children are awful. So we promise you, if you watch The Easter Promise, you're gonna have a wonderful time. Oh, it's also a musical.
2 by 2 God's Little Creatures. This is quite the gumbo. You take the father-son aspect of Finding Nemo, the traveling landscape of Ice Age, and wrap it up in a religious parable of Noah's Ark, and that's how you get 2 by 2. A movie that is simultaneously religious while also tiptoeing entirely around the subject matter. God doesn't even get a mention in this movie despite being in the title, but that's kind of what makes 2 by 2 interesting. It takes a religious parable and streamlines it into a really solid road trip story and presents it with such colorful and beautiful animation. The lighting diffusion in particular stands out as really eye-catching. I mean, look at it go through them trees. Just looks cool, man. The movie may take a lot of liberties with physics and the logic of nature, and one of the twists at the very end is just... damn. But overall, it still has a wholesome message to it, showing that moral teachings of forgiveness and compassion through hard times is important to have, and they do that all with these Muppet Snork mutant hybrid things.
The Star. You are so frustrating, The Star, because this was so close to being such an amazing movie. It's the story of the birth of Jesus through a cute animal analog of Bo the donkey, who was looking for glory by joining the royal caravan, but ends up being the donkey that takes Mary and Joseph to Bethlehem. Bo's story is wonderful, his friendship with his dope best friend is heartfelt, and the cherry on top, the human and natural portrayal of Mary and Joseph as they come to terms second-guessing if they can take care of who they know is the Son of God. All of that is wonderfully done. But then The Star drops the ball, by then filling a great deal of the movie to the brim with wacky animal characters played by celebrity voices, a boring, virtually invisible silent bad guy, and just awfully implemented puns.
King of the shoes? King of the shoes?
The Star feels like part of the production was afraid to go all the way with its story, afraid that it either bore its audience or be too religious and feared insulting someone. So our advice is watch The Star only focusing on the scenes with Mary, Joseph, and Bo, and we think you will see why this was such a frustrating but enjoyable movie for us.
The Rabbi's Cat. This one isn't your typical religious movie. It doesn't visualize parables and tales from religious text, nor does it focus on the birth, death, or sacrifice of any particular religious figure. Rather, it's a story of conflicting ideologies and how we can be civil following them despite our differences in beliefs. This is accomplished through the perspective of a cat who gains the ability to talk from eating a parrot. Because miracle? We explore the various perspectives of Judaism and Islamic faiths, how people strive to expand their worldview through religion, civil discussion, and how some wallow in self-serving, ignorant bigotry to simplify how they see the world. And these heavy topics are told to us through a very sassy and likable cat of a rabbi, who is having a question of faith while on a journey of spiritual growth. So even when things get very tense, and in this movie some of them become very tense, The Rabbi's Cat makes for a very interesting, introspective religious movie.
The Legend of Buddha. This was interesting. Admittedly, the ToonGrin boys are both unaware of many of the practices of Buddhism, so watching the film for us, we didn't have as much expectations when compared to our understanding of Jesus' mythology and beliefs. But while The Legend of Buddha is certainly dated in the animation department, and even the voice acting is at times...
Hey, sit down. Come on, let's play.
The story itself is rather fascinating, and it encapsulates the story of the spiritual leader Buddha. Born a shelter prince, he overcomes the fears and worries of life, death, and worldly possession through spiritual enlightenment. There are definitely some unique moments, but the story's focus on fleshing out Buddha's philosophy lays out an intriguing lifestyle, one focused on personal growth through knowledge and thoughtful compromise. What made the views rather interesting, though, were the many parallels that Buddha, his teachings, and overall outlook mirrored that of Jesus, making us think these two spiritual leaders would have gotten along pretty well had they met. Speaking of...
Saint Young Men. This is a story about Jesus and Buddha living in an apartment together. Having gone through what we mortals have grasped as mythology, the two have stepped down from their heavenly realms and have taken a vacation to modern-day Earth via 2006, and are hiding their identities while coming to grips understanding modern Japanese society. Because of the author that is Japanese would indeed write about what they know, which is living in Japan. The show captures a sense of personality without lambasting the two figures. Jesus is a love-all type of person, being rather upbeat and positive, while Buddha is a bit more calm and collected and a bit more frugal in their spendings, thus allowing their opposing personalities to make for great humor. The two are made out to be seemingly average people, which makes sense given that their teachings were all about peace, love, tranquility, and understanding. Together they experience calm day-to-day life and hang out as best friends while also having kooky mishaps they have to overcome. And I think a show with Jesus and Buddha as best friends is something you should definitely watch.
And lastly, The Miracle Maker. This is arguably the strongest religious movie on the entire list. It doesn't pull its punches, nor does it grovel at your feet to become a believer. The story keeps the biblical aspects of Jesus such as the miracle, spirituality, and self-sacrifice intact, but it doesn't also preach that Jesus was perfect. The Miracle Maker shows you that Jesus was a flawed human, and not some pure deity. He was capable of benevolence, cleverness, and if needed, ferocity. When the visions of his future and inevitable crucifixion came to him, Jesus shows fear and even begs his Father for help, but in the end accepts his role to give himself up. That fear, even showing him almost fumbling his parables and his teachings, shows a version of Jesus that is grounded and real, a Jesus that can be identifiable. The stop-motion animation tops everything else. It's fluid while still able to hold the weight of cloth and character movement, while also mixing seamlessly with various pastel animation styles, allowing each of them to have their own identity. It's this mix of engaging experimental animation and raw human emotion that makes Miracle Maker just a miracle of a movie. Yeah, we said it. And there you go, 10 religious animated movies that'll convert you to want to watch more.
Now, we may get some flack for talking so candidly about all these religious figures and beliefs, but these are still really interesting movies even without considering their religious origins.
Are there religious animated movies you think we and others should be checking out too? Then type it down below and recommend it to others so that we can enjoy it too. And if you have a particular movie or show in mind you'd like us to talk about, just put hashtag ToonGrin10 and they might show up in the future. Thank you for watching ToonGrin 10. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on ToonGrin and everything we come out with. And on screen, follow the links to other videos we think you'll enjoy. You can support us by following ToonGrin on our social media, becoming a patron on our Patreon, or buying a shirt from our TeePublic shop. Links are in the description below. So, as always, be sure to tune in to ToonGrin.